everybody. This is Chris McCabe. Welcome back to Amazon suspension trends. Lots to cover in this particular video because I've just seen more and more mistakes. I thought we lived in an age where there'd be fewer listing errors or compliance mistakes, but there's actually more as we see more brands trying to branch out a bit and sell in multiple international marketplaces. Maybe the US account is their bread and butter, but moving into Europe, since there's more opportunity there, since Amazon's chewing through competition in Europe and opening some new doors, maybe some new revenue opportunities for anyone who's done well in the States. If there's no reason to think that they can't do well in other regional marketplaces, then why not try it out? Especially at a time where there's cost challenges and tariffs are always on the table, inventory cost always rising, ad cost always rising. You probably want to exploit any ability to take sales away from competition, no matter where it is in the world. The problem is the way the execution fails and whether people are doing it in-house with employees who aren't familiar with rules and regulations overseas, and they've only done it in the United States, or let's say US and Canada. US, Canada, Mexico is one region, right? That's North America. Other regions include the UK, Europe. Most people have a pan-Europe account. There's also Japan, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, and so forth. But whatever the marketplace might be, the game remains the same in terms of understanding what compliance needs your particular brand faces in that marketplace, which means understanding local laws and Amazon's guidelines for what can be listed, what types of products even can be sold. Maybe your product isn't even eligible to be sold in certain regions or countries. And these are pretty big mistakes to make because they don't necessarily just shut down your Italy or your France or your Spain account. There might be implications on your US account or your home main account. Let's just say it's US or UK for the sake of argument. We've seen it trigger multiple reviews of listings of entire accounts. Account health ratings go down. Some of our clients have SAS Core account managers who are paid account managers on the Amazon side to help sift through some of this stuff. And they don't always come back with great answers either. I don't need to waste your time and tell you that calling account health, talking to seller support doesn't necessarily help in terms of you get different answers every time. Sometimes it even feels like all the wheels are coming off the cart when you're talking to some of those internal teams, as if they're not even seeing what you're seeing, or they're not familiar with the rules and laws of different countries, of course, that you're trying to sell in. Improper listing flags, whether they're AI or bot generated or not, have become the order of the day. And also, if you botch the initial execution and then Amazon's requesting a series of appeals, we're seeing a lot of brands botching the appeals too, which compounds the problem. I don't know if they're just not sure what to do, so they rely on the old AI or ChatGPT crutch, if that's what it is. The problem is it goes from bad to worse when you don't understand these things. If you have an agency doing it, or you're looking at having your current agency or potential future agency handle this for you, make sure before any work begins that they understand the compliance side of things. And there aren't that many of us out there that do. There aren't that many consultants that understand compliance. We've seen agencies try things, just trial and error, and they must be planning to just fix it on the fly if they do something wrong. But they could trigger batch listing deactivations. They could trigger account health warnings that result in the seller having to appeal just to keep the account active, right? If they're in the account health assurance program. So all of these things have to be considered. You can't blindly expand. You have to have a sense of, you certainly can't take whatever listings you've mapped in US, Canada, UK, whatever, and plan to map them all to each European marketplace, for example. A whole host of problems can come up from that. And the appeals process in Europe, I mean, especially escalations in Europe and the UK, are not what they used to be. There's kind of every answer under the sun out there waiting for you, even if you email or send LinkedIn messages to the managing directors of these different marketplaces, be it UK, Germany, France, whatever it might be. Response times are much longer. The likelihood of a copy and paste response seems to be higher. I understand a lot of sellers US, Canada, in North America, and in the UK are getting tons of copy and paste answers too. And I understand that answers to escalations these days are not that easy to come by. But it doesn't change the nature of the problem, which is, number one, do the most that you can to avoid these triggers before you start. I can't tell you how many brands we've talked to who said, well, we just took our listings for the UK and mapped them all onto the German account, or from our US account to the UK. Tons of differences in terms of regulations, in terms of compliance and policy enforcement between those two different regions, or those three different regions. So either in-house or with your agency, make sure there's somebody who's been through that door before. They've done it for a brand in a similar category. They've done it for similar products before. Get some references, do some real vetting. And quite honestly, whether you're talking about expanding to international marketplaces or any type of brand or product expansion, you need to think about compliance. You need to think about lab tests. You need to think about certifications. So while you're at it, make sure you quiz your agency on who's handling compliance on the inside of their outfit too, because we've seen at least 3 or 4 agencies designate a compliance person who didn't really, first of all, understand how to appeal compliance issues within Amazon. And second of all, they didn't even seem to understand the nature of the documentation or the nature of the product. And even if the products have been categorized properly by Amazon, if it's been miscategorized, there may be certain documents you don't even need to produce. You're disputing the flag or the compliance investigation, right? So no harm, no foul. If you can do this all internally and you've got trained, competent personnel who investigates it the way an Amazonian would or the way we would, have at it. And you'll hopefully see less risk, fewer listing flags, and then ultimately fewer appeals to do. The other issue, of course, with international expansion is, are you going to pass verification? And I'm going to do a separate video on verification, deactivations, and identity investigations, because those are exploding right now. But generally speaking, understanding the documentation that's required in any org, as Amazon would call it, or any regional marketplace before you start, because verification suspensions are apparently delegated to the lowest echelons of the company. They're handled the worst. Boilerplate copy and paste answers where they don't tell you. You may even call into account health reps and say, is there a document missing? Is the utility bill a problem? You're going to get the phone book in terms of answers, piles and piles of contradictory responses, misinformation, sometimes half-written responses, and of course, half-complete conversations, I guess I'd call it if you're talking to support or account health. I can't even tell you how many times people have failed verification in a different new international marketplace when an internal Amazon support rep or someone else said, just start over and create a new account, as if that was a solution. I suspect that those people know that that's going to fail. They just want to hustle the person off the phone. But the fact that that's being said at all, knowing that sellers will go out and create several new accounts on some occasions just to try to pass verification in the UK, maybe not even understanding their VAT issues in the UK or tax issues in Europe or what kinds of documentation is required. It just creates a much bigger mess than whatever needed to happen in the first place. So what we're seeing generally is a lack of due diligence on the front end. It results in a lot of appeals, which of course mostly get denied if they make their way in front of us. Typically several have been denied. And the origin are mistakes that could have easily been avoided. So questions on this, and if you get nothing else out of this video, just don't map listings from one region straight into another without considering which ones can be sold or which ones might pop up as restricted products or which ones will generate a slew of performance notifications in your account health that you won't even be able to keep up with. If that's all you hear from this video, then great. If you have questions on anything else I touched on in this one, let me know. Get to us at ecommercechris.com. We'd be happy to help you out and answer your questions.